This time around, I have a leather holster, surprise, surprise, but it is for a Charter Arms Pitbull in 45 ACP. Now, I don't have the gun, and they don't make a blue gun for it. So what the fella did is he sent me pictures and measurements of it, and I found that it's pretty much the same size of an N frame, which I have a, well, I guess you can't call it blue gun, but a dummy gun for. It's going to be based on the holster I made for a K frame. And this particular one has a sight protector on it. But the K frame fits in there. It's just right. So what am I going to do to make it fit an N frame? Well, check this out. The frame's bigger, across the cylinder is bigger, but the N frame will fit in there too. It's just a bit more of a squeeze. Got to do a little bit more wet molding on the other one to make it fit. But you can see how far back the muzzle sits from the end, and that helps to protect the muzzle. Now, the Pitbull has a 2.5 inch barrel. So I took my pattern and I stared at it for a little while, and I decided to cut just an inch off the bottom of it, because any more than that and it'll look kind of clumsy. So even though the holster may be a bit longer, what it'll do, it'll protect the bottom of the muzzle, the muzzle of the gun again, and most importantly, it'll be more aesthetic. Strap's going to go across it like that, and I think that's a pretty good look. Comparing it with this one, you can see the difference in the length. The way I made this pattern is I just took the pattern for this one. First, I took a piece of construction paper and folded it over. And then I marked an inch in on the bottom of this pattern and put it over top of my my folded piece of construction paper. And then I just traced around it. After that, I took and I redesigned this end, keeping in mind that because of the 2.5 inch barrel, basically it's going to be a full lug. And that has to fit in there too. So, you just take it and stare at it for a little while, and yeah, that'll work. So the next step is to go ahead and cut this out. You can see I already started, cut straight lines, and I just punched a hole through where the sight protector goes. Now, the Pitbull doesn't have an adjustable rear sight, but I think that makes a nice little bit of styling on there anyway, so I'm going to leave it. Next up, we'll have this pattern cut out, and then it'll be time to start cutting some leather. Alright, now it's time to start cutting some leather. I've got my leather here, rough cut. It's going to be a lined holster, and it's going to be 7 ounce on the outside and 5 ounce on the inside, and the inside is going to be the smooth side, well, in or out or facing the gun. And what that does is it makes it nice and smooth on the inside, and it gets it, well, it's pretty that way, but also it helps to protect the gun. Yeah, so let's get to cutting. I'm going to use my favorite little knife, but first, before I start cutting, I'm going to strop it a bit, and the way I do that is I take this hunk of leather, which is just a belt cutoff from making a double layer belt, and I just put some rouge on it, some jeweler's rouge. I'm gonna move this a little. I just take my knife and I run it on that side a few times. Then I'll run it back. To get the inside of that hook there and get it nice and sharp. Let's see, where was that? Then I can go ahead and use that to cut out my leather. Now I cut the leather basically like a rough cut off the main hunk of leather. I generally use double shoulders. And since I roll my leather when I store it, I got to kind of get that bend out of it. So it'll sit flat, and that's good right there. And I'll just take my knife and, well, cut my leather. Just follow my line. Keep in mind that this is going to get stamped, so I gotta keep it nice and neat. Well, there's my first cut. Now I'm just going to keep cutting this, and we'll be back. I guess I could mention this, that when I get to a straight line like this here, this bottom line, I can go ahead and put my straight edge along it, carefully lining that up, and then I can use that to guide my knife. And get a nice straight cut that way. But like I said, I'm going to keep cutting, get this all cut out, and we'll be back. I got the leather all cut out, and you can probably get an idea what's going on here. This is going to be the piece that's going to be on the outside, and well, of course, once it's folded over, it'll look a little bit more like a holster. That's what I was talking about. If you look at it like this here, okay, that looks just right. If I made it any shorter than that, it would look odd, at least in my eyes. But that looks like a nice proportioned holster, and I'll have the strap across, and that'll come out looking pretty good. Well, I think anyway. This is a 7 ounce, and this is the 5 ounce that's going to be glued to the inside. Now everything is going to be based off of this edge, because I'm going to do all my tooling, and I can't really do much sanding on this edge, or the tooling won't fit properly. It'll have too many variations in the spacing as far as the tooling and the stitch line all go relative to the edge. So I've got to make this edge here pretty from the beginning. Now after this is all tooled and that's glued on, and I get stamp set, snap set, then I'm going to grab a hold of the scrap of 9 ounce and cut a welt out of it. But the next step is going to be to go ahead and put the basket weave on it. Now, fortunately, I like it when it works like this, especially since the person I'm making this for wants it to be exactly the same. I can just take the measurements off of this holster and transfer it over to this one. Like, you know, like the spacing here and the stitch spacing, spacing across the top, where the snap's going to sit. I can just take that, transfer it over to this one, get it laid out, and then do all the stamp work. And that'll be next time.